Christmas is a 1994 straight-to-VHS Christmas special for the original Mighty Morphin Power Rangers series, and is one of the most bizarre decisions I've ever seen made. You see, so far as the Power Rangers Wikia is concerned, which is apparently a thing, this was released exclusively for the Power Rangers fan club, a group of people that no doubt would enjoy this at the very least. This special, you see, despite being often referred to as a Power Rangers holiday special, has extremely little to do with the Power Rangers themselves. It is instead, as is titled, Alpha's Magical Christmas, not the Power Rangers, who play a very small part in the episode. And the other thing about this special's title, which is more literal than I expected, is that Alpha's Christmas is indeed magical. But let's backtrack. What exactly is going on here? Well, the story starts with Alpha 5 being rather bummed out as the Power Rangers, rather than spending time with him on Christmas, are off helping Santa Claus. Now, to begin with, Alpha's being a little bit selfish here, as he's running around the command center complaining how lonely he is, and Zordon's probably sitting right there, suddenly realizing that he's simply not good enough company. But let's unpack this even further. The Power Rangers consist of a group of teenagers, and so I'm not really sure why Alpha 5 thinks that were they not with Santa Claus, they would be in the command center rather than off with their families. Regardless, Zordon attempts to console Alpha by showing off his rather specific buttons, the first of which summons a Christmas tree, which is probably only useful once or twice a year. But the second and far more alarming button is the one that summons all of these random children from all over the world from their homes on Christmas Day into the command center so they can keep company this random old interdimensional man and his bizarre lonely robot. Now, granted they did a similar thing to the Power Rangers themselves at the start of the series, but that was because the world was in danger, not because Alpha 5 was having a bit of a blue Christmas. Though it seems Stockholm Syndrome rather quickly kicks in, as all of the children seem to know to immediately give Alpha 5 a hug despite never having seen him before. I hope. Or not. I'm not really sure which situation would be worse. Then Alpha 5 thanks everyone for coming to his magical Christmas party, which I always thought was a little strange as there wasn't much choice in the matter, and with the pleasantries done with, it's time to get down to partying. Now, if you'll remember at the start, I mentioned that I was rather surprised that Alpha's Magical Christmas was indeed magical. And that's where this really comes in. Alpha begins to decorate the area by shooting beams of magic out of his hands, which cause things to appear. This I honestly didn't expect. He keeps referring to it as Christmas magic, which I've never seen him display before. I mean, since when did Alpha become a magician? Or Zordon for that matter. Zordon's supposed to be an interdimensional being with magic-like powers that he draws from the morphing grid, and Alpha's just supposed to be a robot, and yet here they are, now suddenly doing actual magic. What is the limit to these powers? I really don't know. They're making baubles appear, they're making decorations appear. Alpha literally summons gingerbread that could have come really in handy in other times in the series. And I know what you're thinking, but Grim, when in blazes would Alpha 5 summoning gingerbread ever actually come in handy? Well, I'm glad you ask. Imagine this, for instance. The Power Rangers come up against one of Zordon's old nemesis, a morphological being capable of transforming his body into a liquid form. Now, if this villain was to attempt to break into the command center, he would no doubt do so by getting through the bulkheads, through turning himself into a liquid, and simply seeping through all of the holes in the door. This would be a brilliant way to circumvent the command center's elaborate security, and were he able to actually get his way in, he no doubt would be able to do all sorts of damage to the command center, as well as complain about the Brady Bunch. But here is Alpha 5 to the rescue. With his well-established magical powers of being able to summon gingerbread, Alpha 5 could simply soak up the villainous morphological being while in liquid form, preventing him from ever re-solidifying, thus saving the Power Rangers from a rather lengthy quest. But instead, all we see is Alpha use these gingerbread powers just this one time, and then never again, despite the fact that it could have definitely come in handy, and prevented all sorts of issues. But regardless, let's get back into it.
Do you do anything special at Christmas time, Steven?
Wait, hang on. How does Alpha know this kid's name? How long has he been watching these kids for? I really don't want to know. Also, I'd like to point out that we are now 8 minutes into the special, and there still hasn't been any sight of the Power Rangers. And there still won't be for another 5 minutes. But regardless, it's time for caroling with some good old-fashioned classics like Jingle Bells and Good King Wenslin, which Alpha introduces like this.
You know, I know a song about a king who went out on a cold night. I bet you he wants some cookies.
Now, I'm going to be honest. I really don't know much at all about Good King Wenslin, and so I looked him up, curious as to whether or not he would actually be interested in cookies. And this is the result I got. Good King Wenceslas is a carol for the Feast of St. Stephen or Boxing Day with no mention of the Nativity, so I guess it's not even technically a Christmas carol. But then we get into the important part. Wenceslas was a 10th century Catholic Duke of Bohemia, also known as Vaclav the Good, and was martyred after being assassinated by his wicked brother, Borzalo the Bad, which, firstly, I mean, if your brother is called Borzalo the Bad, you should probably assume he's up to no good, and secondly, oh no, Alpha, I think he's gonna need a little bit more than just cookies. I mean, when you're getting assassinated, cookies are probably one of the last things on your mind. I don't know that for certain, I'll have to ask Grin at some point. But let's move straight along from that little history lesson to the next part, which is more magic, where we find out that Alpha's powers are not limited to decorations and gingerbread, but he's also perfectly capable of summoning presents. Which really makes me wonder, why, if he can summon presents at will, is he not helping out Santa as well as, or instead of the Rangers? I mean, here he is in the command center, complaining that he's all alone for Christmas. He seems to have a magical ability that uniquely suits him to helping out the very person that the Rangers are with, and it's the Rangers that he wants to be with, so why not just go to the North Pole and actually lend a helping hand? I'm starting to think that maybe, just maybe, there wasn't that much thought put into the Power Rangers Christmas special, Alpha's Magical Christmas. But let's move straight along because we've finally reached the 13-minute mark, which means it's time we actually get to see the Power Rangers for a couple of seconds over a Skype call. They don't say anything and quite literally have less than 20 seconds of screen time, in which Santa Claus tells us that his sleigh is almost full and ready to take off, which is important later on, and then we're back to caroling. So definitely not much Power Rangers in this Power Rangers special, though, as I said, it was advertised as an Alpha special, and we definitely have a lot of Alpha, so we can't really complain too much about that. The caroling that follows lasts for another 7 minutes, and we get a bit of a montage of stock footage of the Power Rangers, which is still not the Power Rangers because it's just flashbacks, and then at the 20-minute mark, finally, some of the Power Rangers arrive. Not all of them, but it's better than nothing. They give their Christmas wishes and pay a little bit of lip service before they quickly excuse themselves, with Billy using the rather suspicious excuse that they've got to go and help Santa load his sleigh. Now, hang on, isn't that what we saw them doing earlier? Weren't we told that earlier they were almost finished and ready to take off? I think Billy just doesn't want to be here. Sorry, Alpha, I'm not sure if the Rangers have more important things to do, but they're definitely looking for a pretty quick escape from the Christmas party of yours that they already arrived fairly late to. And so, with one more reckless display of Christmas magic, Alpha or Zordon makes it snow in the command center, which is no doubt pretty bad for the electronics, and Alpha's magical Christmas special comes to an end. Now, was this a good Power Rangers special? No, definitely not. There were no shredding hair metal guitars, giant mech battles, or over-the-top martial arts scenes. Pretty much anything that makes Power Rangers good was definitely missing from this special. But was it a good Alpha special? Well, I guess kind of. I mean, he does say aye at some point, and that's really all I ever want from Alpha, so big tick there. And so Alpha's Magical Christmas. It's not good. It's at least wholesome though when there's a lot of Christmas carols, so a youngin' might like it. But overall, I think you're probably going to only enjoy it if you're into really cheesy sci-fi missteps that completely miss the wants of their entire audience, like for instance the Star Wars Holiday Special, where it still remains somewhat enjoyable just because of how utterly absurd it is. I mean, it just raises so many questions both within Power Rangers and even the confines of this special itself. Since when were they magic? Is Billy a liar? Why did the kids get summoned there by teleportation but then had to leave through a portal? It's just all over the shop and it's utterly fascinating. Thanks for watching, and until next time, I have been and still am Grim Grindle.